I am Scott Miller. I write songs and sing them, and I raise cows and sell them.
That's great. I mean, that's a great introduction.
There you go. One of them I'm good at. I don't know which one.
Well, I can't speak for the cattle part, so I'm going to tell you that you're good at the music part and the songwriting part. So you played a show last night, actually.
Asheville at the Gray Eagle. And these are some of my first indoor shows.
And how did that go?
It was fine. They're careful, about who they let in, and that's good.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm not finding huge crowds, but they're buying merch.
Well, I mean that's the big part anyway. I mean, that's where the
that's
money
the lifeblood of any artist at this point.
Is. Technically, I mean, people that do not realize the state of record sales, I don't think a lot of times these days, other than artists. I mean, it's like, merch is huge.
Yeah, I feel like a professional koozie salesman or something at some point, but
sure.
But it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, it supports your music addiction, I guess.
Right.
So.
Well, the cows do, and then the music will support the cow addiction, and
there you go.
It goes around and around.
So, how many shows are you out for this time?
I'm just doing weekends. So, I mean, I'm been doing it every weekend all September, October. Go to Texas in November.
Oh, okay.
And then I quit about Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then I do a 3-night thing at the Down Home in Johnson City. I don't know if you're familiar with that place.
Your home place, right?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
It is.
You would never believe there'd be such a music venue in the middle of Johnson City, Tennessee, but it's there. And I do 3 nights there, and that wraps up the year.
Are all these solo? Are you taking people with you?
I'm doing, Bryn Davies is a bass player that's been with me for a while, and you can Google her and find out how awesome she is.
I do. I know all about her, yeah.
She's doing a couple of those. And then the Down Home, there's 3 shows. I always do a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'll do the Thursday solo. I'll do Friday just with Bryn, and then the band on Saturday.
On Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too cool.
Mix it up.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So take all the money I made on Thursday, Friday, and spend it on the band, pay the band, and go home for Christmas.
Yeah, and I guess that's more of an electric show too, is it not?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah,
it can be.
Yeah, I guess that's a makeup on the spot. What happens?
That's a small room, That's
it's a small room. Yeah,
but it's like some of my favorite venues are like that are wide and shallow, and those are the favorite rooms to play. There's a place in Dayton, Ohio, Canal Street Tavern, that was
kind of
like that. Yeah, number of venues. And those are the kind of venues, too, that you can have 50 people and the room looks full, and you can have 150 people, and it's a fine show.
I think it's always better to have a full room, whether it's small, than it is a large place with half full, I guess.
Well, I'll quote Steve Martin, in Let's Get Small, where he goes, "I could do this act alone. I often do."
That's funny. That's funny. So, is it harder doing it for you on weekends as a performer? I mean, I guess you've done it so long, it's not like you have to. I guess it's like what I do on weekends. I mean, it's you don't forget the stuff from all the years. I guess. I mean, is it hard to switch from being a farmer to a?
It's it used to be back when I was popular. Yeah. I would go out for 2 or 3 weeks and come home for a week.
Right. I did.
And bouncing out for just a couple of shows and going home was actually harder because it was good when you get on the road. Get you, 24 hours in where you're not worried about what bills are in the mailbox or what's going on. And there's a groove to it, a rhythm to it, like any other job, when you're on the road. And coming and going, it's harder, but I worry about the farm.
Yeah. I was wondering if that was...
Yeah, the farm is cut. Because there's certain times of the year that I can't tour.
Right.
So like January, February, first half of March, I'm calving and feeding. So no shows. And then about the middle of May to the middle of June takes me about those 4 weeks to get my hay up. Okay. So no shows.
Yeah, okay. So let's get us to the farm life. I mean, I mean, obviously the farm has always been there, but it has not always been there for you.
Right.
So
Yeah, I left when I was 18 in a hurry.
yeah, exactly. Get off that farm as fast as I can get out of there. So take us from the farm back to the farm.
Right.
You know, I mean.
Well, when I turned 18, my dad did this, I think, with all the kids. When I turned 18, he gave me a birthday card for a 1-year-old. And he goes, "You get it?"
Yeah,
and
I got it. Yeah,
I got it. I'm going. I'm on my own.
Yep, that's it.
And so, but I ended up getting into a good college. Went to William and Mary. Paid for that, but that was when college was cheap.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it's in-state, and it's not a private school. It's an in-state.
Yeah.
You know, I paid $2,500 a year, so $10,000 for 4 years at that college.
That's great. I mean,
so but you can't do it now. I don't know what they pay now.
No, you can't.
So. And my senior year, I majored in, this is embarrassing, Russian and Soviet studies. And was such a naive farm boy, I didn't realize what that program was. And it was just a pipeline for the NSA.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
And because, you know, Williamsburg's not that far from D.C., and that's what it was.
Did you consider doing that?
No, and it took me a while to, I enjoyed the language so much, and I enjoyed the literature so much.
Well, the literature is great.
Oh man, those guys invented the short story.
They did.
And I just loved the history, because what the program was you studied the history, you studied the language, you studied the government, and it was a program for the NSA, and that's where there was only like 12 of us in the program.
I'm sure there was, yeah.
And I remember my junior year, I came back to college, and there was a note on my door. It said, "Call Agent Brown." And I was like, okay. So I call these two agents come over in their suits and everything, and they come in my room and they sit down, and what they're doing is doing background checks on the other students in the program. And they would be like, so
they weren't checking you out. They were checking.
No. They're like, so how do you know Terry?
Right.
Well, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever see Terry with somebody and you're like, now why is she with that person? And I was like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
So because in the program, well, and also the Berlin Wall fell.
Well, it's true.
And everything changed in '89, and there I was graduating, and everything I learned was sort of null and void.
Right.
So I had enough credits I could go back and get a history major. So I did that and got a teaching certificate and got out of there. And then, of course, my parents were Depression era. And as any parent, they want you to find a job and be secure. And a kid going into the music business was not.
Were you playing already at this point?
I was. I had been writing songs since I was young.
And you could already play before you went off to college. It's not something you discovered in college.
No. Actually, my older brother went off to college and came back playing.
Yeah,
typically.
that happens, you know.
And I was like, hey, show me how to do that. Show me that. And he was like, here, read these chord charts and go away. Leave me alone. And there was a Reader's Digest compilation book called Songs of the 60s, you know?
Yeah.
And I just started going through that book and playing what I knew. And I'm not a great musician or guitar player. I consider myself more of a songwriter. But
you are definitely a songwriter.
Well,
but
appreciate
I've seen you playing guitar, man. You shred.
Well, it's all right.
I mean, I've seen you playing with it in the rock and roll.
I enjoy it.
You know,
I'm good enough.
In fact, there's a YouTube video that I really like that you're on from V-Roy days.
Yeah.
So
yeah, those were good times.
So you get out of college, and did you teach actually when you got out?
No. Here's the funny part about this is that, of course, like any songwriter, I went through. I went through Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger to whatever. I did the progression like you're supposed to do. Yeah. And, of course, there was John Prine.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm going to be a mailman like John Prine and walk around and write songs. These mailmen get benefits, and they get a good pay.
I spent 37 years doing that.
Did you really?
I did.
Oh, man. Well, you can't get that job.
And guess what? I rode around writing songs.
Did you really?
I did. I swear to you. All around my house, it would be we'd have things to leave notices on, and there'd be like 3 or 4 verses, and I'd bring them home and lay them around.
Oh man, that was just my dream job. But I didn't realize how hard it was to get a job at the post office.
Just kind of luck. A lot of time.
Well, I paid money and sent off for a book on how to take the for the test.
Yeah.
And of course, I wasn't in the service, so I didn't get those extra points. And realized that they were still drawing from a list from a test 5 years ago.
Oh yeah.
So I went into the guidance office at college, and I was like, "Hey, how do I become a postman?" And there was this young woman in there who was just starting work, and she goes, "Excuse me," she goes, "You just spent 4 years.
Right. Why do you want to do that?
Come here, sit down." And I don't know this woman's name. I don't know if I'd recognize her, but we sat down and talked. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I want to write songs and play songs." She goes, "Well, then you need to do that."
That is good advice.
It was great. It was great advice, and it absolutely focused me. Like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I moved to Knoxville.
So you just up and moved to Knoxville.
Well, yeah. My girlfriend at the time started grad school there. And I thought about Austin. I thought about Seattle.
Right.
At that time, I like researched in the National Geographic, different music towns. And, well, she was there. Knoxville ended up being perfect.
Knoxville's a good music town.
Awesome music town. It's 3 hours from everywhere.
Yeah,
right? To Atlanta, to Louisville, Lexington, to Nashville, it's just there.
And particularly now that all the construction is just about through. I mean, probably most of the time you were there, it was under construction.
Malfunction Junction is what they called it.
Yeah.
Malfunction Junction, yeah. And East Tennessee, that was the first place I ever met Baptists.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, because
I bet that was a surprise.
We're all Methodist and Presbyterian in the Shenandoah Valley, right?
Yeah.
Or a friend of mine, Steve Tuttle's a writer, and he used to write for Newsweek, but he always says, we're diverse in the Shenandoah Valley. We have a Presbyterian churches made of wood and some Presbyterian churches made of stone.
Well, I grew up in a Presbyterian church, and I can recite a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I can pray a long time. And maybe we'll get that much. A sermon suits me just fine.
Yeah, yeah. And forgive your debtors in the Lord's Prayer, man. That's always like the trespassers. Now, we shoot trespassers.
True.
we don't forgive trespassers.
That's true.
We forgive our debtors.
So that's
it was a shock. But I found East Tennessee to be wonderful, and its own thing. I mean, it's it used to be its own state.
Yeah.
State of Franklin.
Yeah, state of Franklin.
And the people there were, well, here's a story. They're so practical.
Okay.
They're so, I collect typewriters, old typewriters. And I started with, my great-grandfather had a typewriter. He was a doctor in a small town called Clifton Forge in Virginia. And he used it to type labels for medicine.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like a 1900 Underwood, and it fell in the move and broke a piece. And so a friend of mine was like, "There's an old guy out, in Clinton, north of town, who fixes typewriters." So I lugged this heavy thing out there and left it for a week or two and went back to get it. And this old guy's sitting on the front porch. He's like smoking a cigarette, but he's got like an oxygen tube coming out the door, and he's up there, and he's like, yeah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I came to pick up my typewriter. He goes, oh, that old thing. He goes, I didn't fix that. You don't need that thing. He goes, I got a little electric in here. I'll sell you for $20. It'll work better than that. And I was like, well, it has sentimental values. My great grandfather. And he goes, son, we don't get our ice from the creek anymore. And that to me sums up East Tennessee.
So did you get the electric typewriter?
No. I took my broken typewriter and found somebody else to fix it. But he was like, you're wasting your time. And that's East Tennessee in a nutshell. They don't have time for frills. And they're that way as an audience. And that's why so many great entertainers have come from there.
Yeah.
Because an East Tennessee audience, they're there. They've given you their money. You're going to work, right? Yeah. If they're going to clap, it means you're going to make them clap.
Right.
And so it was a
not like
great
Texas.
education and a great place to learn to play.
So you just get in town and say, I got to find me a place to work, and take your guitar and go
Yeah, I
find
went to a bar called Hawkeyes and went in there. And he goes, well, I'll give you a Wednesday night or something, one show.
Right.
So I went up and played for one show, and I think my girlfriend brought some of her friends, and they walked out. And I wasn't writing very good songs, and I was writing songs
all
about
your own. You wasn't covering or anything.
No. I had tons of songs, but they were all about mass murderers and obnoxious, about bowheads, and it was timely, and it took me a while to learn to try to write timeless. That's after I heard Roger Miller. That's when I changed my whole perspective. Yeah. But he goes, all right. He just gave me every Friday, and so I had posters all over town. Said Scott Miller at Hawkeyes every damn Friday, and did that for 4.5 years, almost 5 years.
Wow.
That was my base, and it just built from there. And I would get a certain amount of money, and then if the bar topped 1,000 or whatever, I'd get a percentage.
Right.
And it got so much that eventually the owner's like, man, I can't pay you this much. I just can't justify this. I'm like, yeah, I get it. That's cool. But I wore myself out doing that because I was playing there every Friday. I had a gig in Anniston, Alabama. Ooh. Every Wednesday. Oh, yeah. I slept on the bar floor.
I bet.
And they locked me in the bar.
Really?
Yeah. If there was a fire, I would have been dead.
Was that not kind of? Oh, you were young though. I mean, when you were young,
I was in my 20s. Yeah, I could do anything.
That would be just kind of real freaky now at your age.
I could sleep on the floor and probably eat styrofoam and get a bag of donuts the next day and be good.
Yeah.
And I had where else was I regular? Oh, Lexington, Kentucky. Anyway, I built it up and had a little van and did it, but I wasn't writing good songs. They weren't timeless, or they weren't trying to be timeless. And I just wore myself into a hole. And so I was like, I got to take a break. So I got a job at a law office as a process server, which was awful.
Yeah, I'm sure that was no fun at all.
It was terrible.
Particularly in East Tennessee.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm sure that was not fun.
It's like, figured out divorces are like high school breakups with bigger toys. And the things that these people would do to one another, and it was terrible. I had to go serve a 12-year-old kid. I guess these parents were getting divorced and they were battling over the child.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm not doing that. And they're like, you want to work here? I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'm doing that. And so I went to the school, and I don't know if this is relevant to anything, but we're
That's
just talking.
That's a good story. Those stories is the whole nature of this anyway. So
I went to the school, and I went into the principal, and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. I got to serve this kid. Now, we can get a guidance counselor and do it, or, you can do it, or, I said, you can tell me he's not here. And he goes, he ain't here. And I said, thank you. And I just left.
That's great.
So I did that for a while. But in that time off, that year off, when I started listening to Roger Miller, and
what prompted you to listen to Roger? Did you just hear him?
Yeah. I had friends that worked at a record store. And because we should go back, because my musical influences were not deep. It's always they're long. Like what was popular. My parents were so old, and my grandparents, we had an Edison player. My grandparents did, and Edison, he invented it. Right. But Victrola had the main artist. So all the artists on Edison were mainly novelty songs and stuff like that. But I used to listen to those. And then my dad, he played trumpet in big bands, and I'd listen to it was whatever popular, but it was through such a jump of generations. Right. The music I was exposed to, but it wasn't anything deep. And anyway, so there was a Bear family put out a thing on Roger Miller that was just his heartbreaking songs. Wasn't like Do Wackadoo, and always you knew everybody knows King of the Road and all that. So I knew
which is a wonderful song.
Oh my God, it's beyond wonderful. Are you kidding? That song is like whoa.
That's almost a perfectly written song.
It is so above everything. It just glows.
It does.
It's like and that's Roger Miller. he's so cosmopolitan and so, the line between humor and heartbreak where he can just walk it.
Yeah.
Almost as good as Hank Williams could,
Yeah.
but he's right there. But this was just a sample of his slow heartbreak songs. Husbands and Wives, Last Word and Lonesome Is Me.
Oh.
And I just was like, oh my God. And so then he's like, my friend Jeff was like, if you like that, check this album out. It was his first album, Dang Me.
Yeah.
Won 5 Grammys, full of hits.
Yeah.
Produced by Jerry Kennedy, who produced anything he produced you should get.
I agree.
He's so awesome. And I just wore those albums out. And so it just was like,
this is how we do it.
It's restored me. And I started writing again and enjoying playing again. And that's how the V-Roys were born. We sort of got together over Roger Miller.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Originally, we called ourselves Big Harlan Taylor, which is a Roger Miller song. And we just started playing. I just started enjoying it. I just started writing. And in 2 months, we were signed. And in another 3 months, we were on a tour bus in Europe. And that's how that happened.
And you signed with Steve Earle with that, didn't you?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Did he just hear you guys?
Well, there was a guy named Dub Cornett who had lived in Knoxville and who was a mover and a shaker down in Nashville. And I think he's told Jack Emerson was the other owner of the record label E Squared. Jack Emerson, Steve Earle. And he's like, you should check these guys out. And Steve came up to our practice space and hung out one night. Yeah. And that was great. And and we were the first act signed.
Yeah, I knew you were the first act, but I thought that was, I figured he just saw you somewhere. I didn't know he actually came up to your practice space.
Yeah, word of mouth there. Came up and hung out. And then, of course, we went from there to Warner Brothers. Our second album was a Warner Brothers record. And then, as we say, Bugs Bunny took his carrot and went home. Because they never do anything with it.
Well, I mean, that was a pretty good run with the V-Roys.
It was awesome.
Are
you kidding?
Those songs were wonderful. I mean, that's good stuff.
Well, Mick Harrison, who's the other writer in that, and who still writes and puts out stuff, I encourage anybody to listen to him.
I agree totally.
Plus he is one of there's only a few people in your whole life you're going to meet. You could probably count them on one hand who are like Mick Harrison, because Mick he could be at the White House at a black tie affair, or he could be over somewhere in the worst part of town on the back porch. He would be the same guy.
Same guy.
And when he left, everybody would be like, oh, hey, man, see you, Mick. You're awesome. He would walk out of the White House and the Secret Service would be like, Mick Harrison, you come back.
Well, your vocal blend, too, was so good.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a great singer.
It was great. Your vocals together are just,
Yeah,
that also made the songs were great. The vocal it's the band. The band.
Yeah,
it's that type of vocal mixing with you and Mick.
There was a little lightning in the bottle there. I don't know how much lightning it was, but it was something special, and we enjoyed it, and we knew it at the time, and it was wouldn't change a thing. As a wonderful period of my life was spent with those guys.
But then you got even more famous.
I don't know what more famous is, but I went to Sugar Hill after that and made some records for them, and then, which I loved. I loved Sugar Hill. Man, you're not supposed to like your record label. I loved everybody there. I would go down there and hang out with those kids. I was a kid too.
Right.
We all we loved music and loved hanging out. And
was the Commonwealth a good bit different than the V-Roys?
I'm not a leader of men. I'm a good worker.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm probably not a good band leader. And I would not do things differently, but I would do things differently.
Yeah, I do understand that.
I enjoyed that time. It was a lot of work being in charge of everything.
To be the front man's always tough, and for it to be your band.
Yeah.
But you did do one of the coolest things of any
Here we
act.
go.
Yeah, it is. That I've ever seen anybody do was tour based around Amtrak.
Yeah.
Go.
I
Let's
pulled
talk
it
about
out.
it.
All right. Well, I wrote that song sort of by accident. I was at my friend John. I call him Johnny Right Wing. I was at his house and drunk and fell and hit the coffee table and broke my nose. And so I had two big black eyes. And I didn't want to go out and have to explain to everybody. No, nobody kicked my ass. I just, whatever. So I was back in my house. I lived in Louisville, Tennessee. It was outside of Knoxville in Blount County on the lake out there. It was a cinder block house full of spiders. And I just hung out there and wrote songs and had a little fire in the backyard. And I was like, well, I'm going to write a song about traveling. I feel like traveling and I can't go anywhere. So I wrote Amtrak Crescent.
Yeah.
And
which I love. It's a great song.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good song.
It's clever.
Yeah.
I did some good stuff in that. I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
I put it up and put it on that second record that we made for Sugar Hill. And then they called and were like, "What? How do you want to promote this record?" And I'm like, I think that's your job. I don't know. And I said, well, there's a song called Amtrak Crescent. Why don't we call Amtrak? See if we can do something. So through a friend of a friend, I got in touch with the Secretary of Transportation.
No.
And who put me in touch with the people at Amtrak. And they were like, they loved the idea.
It's a great idea. I mean, no doubt.
We had a guy, Jerome Trahan, who sort of was our liaison, who traveled with us, got us on the trains, did everything. The only weird thing about that tour, we did 21 shows, 21 days, 21 cities.
It's hard, too.
It was rough. We had to get a separate van to haul the equipment because when the train stops, you don't have time to unload because they're always behind.
They're on their time, yeah.
Yeah. And,
I didn't even think
so
about
when
that.
they stop, man, they are kicking you off there. Get, because we got to go.
Right.
So it wouldn't have time to unload. So we had two guys in a cargo van. They had the equipment
Carrying
while
equipment
we rode the train in high cotton,
They were driving 21 days of
Yeah,
driving
they
to
were
places.
doing that. We were like, hey, playing cards on the train.
Did y'all play music on the train?
We did a little recording on there and played on the train. Because back then, they still had a dining car and sleeping cars and the smoking car.
Yeah.
They don't have, they don't have any of that now.
That's pretty cool, though.
But it's last gasp.
Did you do a documentary of that?
We did. We filmed all of it we could. It's out there somewhere. I don't know whatever happened to it. We sent it all to Sugar Hill, and they put it together. And I remember seeing it. I'm sure it's on the dark web. Some of it ain't pretty.
I had heard that you did.
Yeah.
But then I could never find it anywhere.
I don't know that I can find it anywhere.
It's one of those things
probably on a zip disk somewhere.
I love to see that. I just love to see it. One of my favorite things is the big band era. People traveling on trains to do shows, and
White Christmas, man.
Yeah, exactly. So Cab Calloway has one of my favorite things where he's singing and playing, and they're traveling on the train, and he's dancing around being Cab Calloway, and so I tried to find that, and it's like, man, maybe it doesn't exist.
It's
coming,
somewhere. I know I've seen it. And I think I saw it online somewhere at some point, but I wouldn't know how to find it. I don't know if I want to look back on that period as far as.
Yeah, you may not want to. But what was it fun?
Oh yeah, man, we did it right, and it was epic.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean,
and we had some fantastic shows because the press was good.
Yeah,
we were in every newspaper and got Newsweek.
Newsweek, yeah.
That was a big deal for my parents to see my picture in Newsweek.
Where did you start that and where did you end it?
We started in New Orleans and ended in New York. And we drank a lot all the way, broke a few guitars. One guitar got broken. Played a lot of cards. It was just epic.
The van held up the whole time?
The van held up the whole time.
That's good.
And really, like, one of the best shows on there was Charlotte was good. Greenville was epic. That was the newer handlebar. That big room. It was packed to the gills.
I'm sure.
It was
So
And,
that's pretty cool. I mean, that's one of the cooler things that
we had. Here's the other thing. In New York, we played in Tribeca, and because we've been playing cards on the train, we had poker chips, and they used poker chips up there for their drink tips.
Oh, really?
We were like,
oh, we've been playing cards.
No problem, man. We're so covered around here.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. That is really funny. Oh, yeah, we got this one.
Yeah, that was the last night. It was amazing. I wish I could find that document, but we did it every time somebody, I think somebody did it a few years ago.
Oh, I think people have tried to do it. Or
yeah, it's not new. I mean, they did it in the '60s too. Remember with the Grateful Dead, and Janis Joplin, and they did that thing.
Yeah, but not one same band.
No,
I mean,
but it was a great relationship because I did other tours, on different trains. I used the trains.
Oh, you did other stuff?
Yeah.
Oh.
I did like on the Cardinal, which runs through my hometown of Stanton, but it goes like through Richmond and down to Atlanta and stuff. I did a run on that solo, and I did like 2 or 3 solos.
I went on solo. I guess you could carry your stuff there with you solo.
Yeah, it was easy. I just had a sleeper car,
right,
and just get off and just do
Take
it.
your stuff, got your backpack and your guitar.
That's it.
Kind of like what you got here today.
Like what I got today.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that had to be fun too by yourself.
Yeah, well, comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable for sure.
I mean, sleeper cars pretty nice.
And I mean,
and even coach in a train it ain't like coaching an airplane, man. I mean, you can stretch out and put your legs out and everything. It's very comfortable.
Plus, it's not like driving yourself.
Right.
I mean, I'd go a lot more places if I didn't have to drive.
See, I'm arguing with my mother that way. I'm trying to get her to quit driving. And, of course, it's the last American independence.
Well, it kind of is.
It's so American.
It is totally
drive.
American.
But I would be like, wouldn't it be nice to have somebody just drive you around? I would love to never have to drive, to call somebody, be like, hey, take me somewhere.
I like that too. That's kind of the advent of Uber. It's kind of a beautiful thing.
Right. So
I don't want to drive. Drive me there.
Take me there.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be hard to give up my license when I'm old.
Was it when you came off that, 21 days on the train, was that kind of is there a lull, a depression, or, is it like, man, I miss that, or am I glad to be
I can't remember what. I think we hit the ground running right after that, man. That was 2001 through about 2007. I wasn't home much. Here's my going home story. I'd be gone for a few weeks and home for a week. And I came home, I was home for a week, and I was married by then, and my wife went to work in the morning, and I got up, whatever, crack of 11 o'clock or whatever, making myself some breakfast. And damn toaster wasn't plugged in. I was timing everything out.
Right.
And we're toasting. God damn it. So she came home for lunch, and I was like, hey, we got a survey call today, and they asked some questions. She goes, really? She goes, you don't usually have patience with that kind of thing. I was like, well, yeah. I said, they asked which we use more, our can opener or our toaster. She goes, oh, well, we use our toaster a lot more. And I'm like, then why was it unplugged? And she goes, when are you going back on the road?
Oh, that's funny. So
that was life.
So how'd you get in the TV business? I saw you on TV.
Oh, God, that was terrible.
Playing a little box or something, too, wasn't you? Didn't they flash to you a little bit?
Yeah. That was Blue Collar TV.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah.
With Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy and Ron White.
Yeah, Ron White.
Was there a fourth one? Yeah, Bill Engvall.
Oh, yeah. At the time, they were the hot guys,
They were, and they did a TV show. They filmed it in Atlanta. I guess they got us through Sugar Hill. And they wanted somebody that could play different stuff. And that was my first foray into television. And it was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
I remember seeing it did flash over to you guys. You had that a little booth or something.
It was gobs of money moving around in television. And it's so much hurry up and wait. And weird things with creative stuff. Like if we were blocking and doing a thing, because you'd rehearse or work one day, you'd film 3 shows on a Wednesday, and you have weird days off. And but we lived in Atlanta, or we lived in Athens, Georgia. They did a season there too. We did 2 seasons, did a pilot and 2 seasons.
Okay.
And that usually lasted about a month. And it was great money, but there was just nothing satisfying artistically about it.
Well, I mean, I guess how did you come up with the material you played there? I mean,
well, you had to be careful, because like even if you were just noodling around sound check, they would own it.
oh, really?
So yeah.
Oh,
You couldn't really come up with anything new or use that time to rehearse. It's a nasty business, that television.
I'm sure it is. We used to we have it's different than TV, but we used to have the B King movie guy here. A guy named Earl Scruggs had a huge studio here, and he made tons of movies.
Wow.
And James Cameron learned how to do, he was here and learned how to do stuff like for the Titanic and all here in Shelby. The guy was, Earl Scruggs was his name. He had a huge studio, and he kind of set the standard for the North Carolina music, and because he used a lot of music in his stuff.
Okay.
And in fact, I played a Hall of Fame induction for him, a North Carolina Music Hall of Fame induction with him and a guy named Danny Flowers. I wrote Tulsa Time.
Yeah. Played bass for Don Williams, right?
Yeah, he did. And so I was just amused that he would be in the Music Hall of Fame, and then they started, putting up all the movie soundtracks that he had assimilated, and it was just like, well, maybe he does deserve to be there. I just couldn't figure out how a movie maker would be in the Music Hall of Fame.
There's movie soundtracks, man, when they're right, they're right.
Well, and these were none of these were award winning, but they all made. I think every movie he made a profit.
Wow. Well, see, independent.
Yeah,
doing it.
So
that's where we go, where we're at. 2007.
Yeah.
At that point, Sugar Hill was owned by Welk Music, and
like Lawrence Welk.
Yeah, it was his grandson.
Okay.
And he was trying to run it like a major label, and that's not what Sugar Hill was about, man.
Right.
Sugar Hill was about low overhead, easy, leave your artists alone, steady growth. I mean, they had a few breakout records. I mean, Old and in the Way, like the biggest bluegrass selling record of all time. Sure. And then Chris Thiele and them, they had that. But they had a few records that did that. But everybody was just slow and plodding, and everything made its money back.
With that, right.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it wasn't that way all of a sudden. And that was no place. I'd already run through that game with Warner Brothers.
Right.
I didn't want anything to do with that. Plus, and I'm not a good businessman, obviously, because I farm. But I could see where record labels they're a thing of the past. If you're not selling millions,
that's true.
You have no need. You might as well keep your money. Yeah. That's what I called it. Not making more money. You're just keeping your money.
Yeah, this is true.
Where you're selling back. This is still when people bought CDs.
Right.
You're making just your cost of goods is all you're paying, and you're making the rest of that instead of just a 12, 13, 15% on a record. So I form my own record label, FAY, which stands for, I don't know if I can say it.
Yeah, you can say it.
Fuck all y'all.
Yeah, that works. You can say
That's what it stands for.
I'll push it over to adult content. It just doubles the listens.
Okay. Well, that's the name. That's what it stands for.
I kind of figured that it did. But it's good to hear it,
Yeah.
I mean, I used to sit around and try to figure out what it was, and that's what I came up. I thought,
fuck all y'all.
Yeah, it's probably not the truth. It's probably not. It's probably just me thinking that. It's probably, I know it must have something to do with farm.
Right?
So,
no, well, a little bit.
Oh, that's really cool.
But I was inspired by, there was a songwriter back in the 80s and 70s, used to be where I got him, Mike Williams. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he had his own record label called BF Deal.
Oh, yeah.
And he said it would stand for Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin Deal, yeah, that'll work.
But I sort of took that idea and started FAY. And, the first record did great.
That's
and
a
then,
good record too. Yeah, I mean, that's a real good record.
then people quit buying CDs, you know. So that's just how it goes. And I moved home.
Yeah.
2010 is when my dad was, you know, he was too old to do it. He was ready, and so I was ready for a change. I think.
That's a, you know, you were when you left to go do that, you know, you were pretty successful, pretty high along the way, you know.
Yeah, and I thought, well, I could do what I do from anywhere, but you can't.
You can't. No, there's a local songwriter who had a lot of big hits, and he thought he could move back to Shelby and still have those big hits. And guess what?
Yeah, you got to shuck and jive.
Yeah.
You got to be. I'd see, and I lived in Knoxville, so in Nashville, I called them guerrilla strikes. I'd go down, do whatever I need to do, and then get the hell out.
Yeah,
because I'm pretty annoying anyway.
Yeah, I know a guy that does that now. Goes there, writes for a couple of days, and then comes back. He plays in the. And you might know. You know Charlie Humphreys.
No, I know that name.
Charlie played with Steep Canyon Ranger Steve Martin.
Oh, well, yeah.
But then he got his Grammy, and he decided, I don't know if I can tell this story. Yeah, we'll forget that story.
Okay, you tell me later.
But he has his own. He has his own band now. But he goes to Nashville about once a month and writes with people, and then gets out.
Make a loop around town, make sure everybody sees you, and then get out. Yeah, that's what I do.
And he lives in Asheville now, so runs his band out in Asheville. So.
Well, and I was also taking care of 2 elderly parents, which was a full-time job,
I'm sure.
and I knew what I was getting into with that. And as far as I was concerned, I mean, it's what you do. It's what we did with our grandparents. Well, they moved in with us, or we took care of them. It's just what you do.
It's a righteous and justifiable thing to do, even though it came at really the height of your career, which I have a ton of respect for, But that's a ballsy move. I mean,
it was just not even a second thought for me. It wasn't like it was a conscious thing. It was like, this is what you do.
This is what needs to be done.
Yeah,
this is what
I got to do. So, and it was, 2 years into moving back, my dad had a stroke. And so then it was really full-time care for a number of years.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work.
Well, you kind of disappeared.
Yeah. I tried to do a few shows.
Right.
And it was frustrating, I think, for my agents. And, my manager I'd lost my manager with that. Like, you're not working enough. It's like, what do you want me to do? This is what anyway, it was tough. And I tell you, and my dad passed away into April, 1st of May, this past year. And I think anybody who's done long-term care knows this, and I have had experience with it before too. It's almost like post-traumatic stress when it ends. Because you're on for 24 hours, taking care, and especially the pandemic.
Yeah.
My parents were separated. 65 years of marriage, and she was upstairs in an apartment, and we had to move him to skilled care, and he was downstairs, and they couldn't see each other.
Yeah,
and I was doing everything I could besides kidnap the CEO of this place's pets to say, you are going to get these people together, man. This guy does not have that much longer.
Right.
This is crazy. And we finally did the last few months. Yeah, the last few months.
That's good.
But he was ready. We were ready. He was ready. I think he would call it a good death. He was 92, and he's like, I'm done.
I mean, that's a full life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
he did a tremendous amount. I could brag on him and tell you everything he did with it.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
I mean, 92 and live a full life. That's, what can you add? I should be so lucky.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to live that long, to tell you the truth.
Not really. We had a discussion about that today, actually. So I do understand.
But, I always think I should write a book on elderly care now, because it's all this knowledge you get by doing it. And then when you're done, of course, my mom's still alive, but she's in fairly good health and at a facility, and I don't have to worry about her day to day and make sure she eats and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's good.
But that took. I really didn't think my dad would. When we moved up there, I thought maybe 5 years, and he would. I would go get him every day out of his chair. We have a little John Deere Gator that he could get in because they're low. and he could get in that, and he would drive. And every day we'd ride, check the farm.
Yeah.
And one day we were riding. I mean, he could be annoying. And he was like, I saw the news, and you lose your sense of taste and smell. You don't live more than 5 years. I don't know where he saw that. And I was like, took that. I was like, I'm not going to be that lucky. He's like,
Yeah.
it was 10 years. So that before he passed away,
Has it been 10 years since you?
Well, no, yeah, since we moved up in 2010.
Wow.
And so I didn't expect it to be. It was hard. It's been hard on everybody.
It was harder than what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, longer.
Yeah.
I'd had some experience with this before we took care of my wife's parents. Like I say, my grandmother moved in with us. I mean, I've seen it done. It's what, and I'm the youngest, and it's sort of like that's what you do.
Yeah.
And so that was my job. I tell everybody, I adopted 2 kids. They're just wonderful. One's 86, one's 88. They're precious.
That's funny. That's funny.
So, and I'm sort of just coming out of that in the pandemic. I wrote a little bit during the pandemic. Not much.
Is it hard for you to write? I guess now you can again. Probably. With
I think I'm going to be back right into it. I've been Robin and Linda Williams. Are you familiar with them? Well, they're neighbors, friends, and neighbors. Yeah, they live in Stanton.
Really?
They lived in Middlebrook.
Some fine singers.
Oh, they can sing the phone book.
They can.
And she's the artist, and Robin is the smartest. And then it's just that's how they roll. So we co-wrote a lot. They got a new record out that has some songs that we wrote together, and one of my songs on it called "Better Day Coming." It's awesome. They made it in Stanton. So I'm back in the groove a little bit.
Can you record out of Stanton, or you have to?
I don't know. I haven't decided. And my old bass player Park Chisholm moved from Nashville to Lynchburg, Virginia, and he's got a studio. And I always thought it'd be easy to go down there.
Probably be a lot easier.
Yeah.
And you can do that more these days. I mean, a lot of records are made.
I sort of miss the old ways.
Well, the old ways were fun because it's a big, huge studio. And it's, as opposed to
somebody's living room, and it can sound just as good.
Yeah,
yeah.
But it's not the same as a studio. I mean, it has the whole.
The times with the V-Roys in the studio, and even we self-produced one of our records. But we did it in the studio.
Though,
then I made that record with Jim Dickinson in Memphis.
Yeah.
It was a weird time, but it was good.
How's Jim to work with?
He was awesome.
Really?
I really, we tried to get him to produce for the V-Roys because he did all that replacements.
Right.
And we were like, that's the guy.
He probably would have been good for that. I mean, really.
Oh, he probably would have been awesome.
Yeah, he probably would have.
But Steve was never going to let that happen. He was going to produce it all.
Yeah.
And that's fine because they sound good.
Oh, they're good. There's not a thing wrong with them.
Not complaining.
Yeah, I agree.
But I sort of went down there thinking, I'm going to have to do a battle with this rock and roll guy, and we'll see what comes out. Well, he's old folky.
Really?
Yeah. And
who would have thought that?
Yeah, man. And so it was awesome. It was awesome. He was wonderful, told wonderful stories, but we worked. I mean, in Nashville, I don't like sitting around and hearing stories, whatever. I like to work.
Yeah.
Time is money, and I like to work. I'm Scotch-Irish.
And also, I realize when I go in that I'm going to screw up several times. So, I need to work,
and you want somebody you're comfortable with. You got to be able to be able to stretch yourself out and make mistakes and be like, hey, that's stupid. Don't do that or try that. You know, where that relationship is hard. And I think going in a studio is hard because it's a neutral space. You got to make it your own. That's hard.
Yeah.
But, that's like first world bitching right there.
Well, I mean, I agree.
But anyway, I got to get enough songs to do next record. I've got a few new songs that I've enjoyed playing in this run and tweak on them and work on them. And I think this winter I'll do a lot of writing.
Yeah, that'll be good. Well, I mean, you should have a wealth to draw from after this time.
Yeah. I got my notebooks and good ideas, and it's just a matter of sitting down and
Doing it, yeah.
And yeah, using the eraser end of your pencil
Sure.
more than the pointy end of your pencil.
Wow, I understand.
Yeah,
And
that's how
nothing
it
like
is.
editing
No.
and rewriting.
It's the best.
Editing
And there's
and
just no
rewriting.
substitute for the time of going through it, and playing it by yourself 100 times.
Oh, yeah.
Until you're like, nah,
Till you annoy everybody around you. Yeah.
yeah. Until you know, like that's not right. So, and that's where we're at today.
I actually just take it to him when I write it, and then he tells me, oh no, this is wrong. You need to.
See, that's what I love about Mick Harrison. We'll still call each other and trade stuff, and we both sort of have the same ethics and stuff about songs, and trust each other.
Well, I take it to Chris because that word doesn't work, or your phrasing there does not work at all.
Yeah. Mick can be like, hey.
It's like, well, I thought it was pretty good. No, you need to work on it.
Excuse me, yeah.
And I trust him, so, I mean.
It's trust, man, and I don't co-write a lot.
Yeah.
With Robin and Linda is a whole different thing. Co-writing with them is different than with Mick.
I guess they came to you, right? Or y'all just hanging out? I mean.
Yeah, I know them and knew them, and I had a song that ended up on the last record, I guess, called 10 Miles Down the 9 Mile Road, and we just sort of use that as a test.
Right.
Where I was like, where should this go?
Right.
And we sat around, knocked around on it, and did it. They have a different, I like to write with what I call declarative images. So I don't like to make statements. I like to say something that brings that emotion out. And they're more
straight ahead.
And Linda is no nonsense, and she's awesome. She's like, I'm telling you, she's the artist, he's the smartest. And that's how they are.
They're wonderful singers, I can tell you.
And they're great people. I mean, it's just
great.
Wonderful.
That's good. I always love it when I hear the end of they're really great people.
Yeah, because there's some people that are.
Yeah, they are. And those are, there's more of them actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. I mean, that's a good thing. So what have we missed here today?
I don't know. I think we brought it right up to the present.
I think we have.
That was my life story. What? My story?
Yeah, but it's a really fun story.
This is Navin Johnson signing off.
Well,
you got Steve Martin in there twice.
Yeah, so maybe 3 times.
Maybe. Probably. Steve Martin is just, I memorized all those records. Of course, that was right about 77.
Sure.
And when he was at his peak there, and everybody, I had those albums.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things with the V-Roys has brought us together with Steve Martin and Roger Miller. Our love of those two.
Those are great people. I mean, great artists.
Great artist.
Yeah, really great artist. I mean, if you think about it.
It broke my heart. I read his Born Standing Up, and it just breaks your heart to see like he was at his peak and he was at his worst. And I get it.
But yeah,
I totally get it.
Yeah. I mean, happiness is not very conducive to writing good material a lot of times. I mean, I think sometimes people do it to, I think some people will tell you they make problems for themselves just so they have something to write about.
No, I think you get enough drama in your teenage years, you can pretty much finish anything out.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a good one. I
think you got plenty of angst.
So you're playing tonight?
Tonight, where am I? Charlotte.
Yeah.
Neighborhood Theater there with David Childers, who is one of my favorite. Speaking of true artists in different mediums.
Yes.
And that guy is just, there's a guy in Knoxville, R.B. Morris, who's David. When I first met David, he reminded me so much of R.B. because they are artists in everything they do.
Yeah.
In their work and in just different, poetry or painting or anything. Yeah. It's just he lives and breathes it.
He does.
And it's real.
He's and he's done it for a long time now.
Yeah.
David's getting up And actually, I can't say that we're the same age, so I guess he's getting
I ain't
old.
young anymore either.
He's getting old. So.
I can't fall down and just jump back up anymore.
Well, you can tell him. I said this. Sometimes David will be sitting there looking like an old man, and then he'll step on stage. And you go, "Oh Jesus," I mean, he can take and then once he hits the stage, he's wide open.
Yeah. So, no, he's amazing. So I'm looking forward to that tonight.
Yeah, that should be fun. Well, is there anything else I need to know?
I don't think so.
This has been wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and do this.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.